Imagine being born a healthy child to two parents, and at the age of 19 months losing your hearing and your sight to a mysterious illness. This actually happened to Helen Keller. According to History.com, Helen Keller was an author, lecturer, and crusader for the handicapped. Helen Keller was born Helen Adams Keller in Tuscumbia, Alabama on June 27, 1880. According to American Foundation for the Blind, at 19 months she became sick by either scarlet fever or rubella, which caused her to lose her sight and her hearing. But everything changed for her on March 3, 1887, when Helen met Anne Mansfield Sullivan. Anne was just 20 years old and had just graduated from Perkins School for the Blind. She also herself suffered from vision problems. She had gone through multiple botched operations at a young age before her sight was restored partially. Anne knew she had to teach Helen obedience and love, since Helen always acted out. So what Anne decided to do was remove Helen from her main home for 2 weeks. And put her in a cabin with her. She taught her how to connect objects with letters. In 1890, at the age of 10, Helen expressed her desire to learn how to speak. So Anne decided to take her to Sarah Fuller at the Horseman School for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing in Boston. Fuller gave Helen 11 lessons, after which Anne taught Helen. Throughout her life, though, Helen remained dissatisfied with her voice, which was hard to understand. By 1889, Helen had entered Cambridge School for the ladies to prepare for Radcliffe College. When she entered Radcliffe in the fall of 1900, she received her BA degree cum laude in 1904 and was the first deaf-blind person to do so. While still in Radcliffe, she began her writing career that was to continue throughout her life. In 1903, she had written her first autobiography, which was called The Story of My Life. The Story of My Life was translated into 50 languages and remains in print to this day. Some of the stuff she had written were Optimism, The World I Live In, The Song of the Stonewall, Out of the Dark, My Religion, and many more books. The Helen Keller archives contain over 475 speech and essays that she wrote on topics such as faith, blindness, prevention, birth control, the rise of fascism in Europe, and atomic energy. To be able to write these, she used a Braille typewriter to prepare her manuscript and copy them on a regular typewriter. According to HelenKellerInternational.org, Helen founded the Helen Keller International in 1915 and became one of the premier international non-profit organizations dedicated to preventing blindness and reducing malnutrition. She was a pacifist. She protested in the U.S. involvement in World War I. She was also a committed socialist and took up the cause of workers' rights. She was also a tireless advocate for women's suffrage and an early member of the American Civil Liberties Union. She joined the American Foundation for the Blind in 1924 and worked for the organization for over 40 years. The foundation provided her with global platform to advocate for the needs of people with vision loss, and she wasted no opportunity. State commissions for the blind were created, rehabilitation centers were built, and education was accessible to those with vision loss because of her traveling throughout the United States. Between 1946 and 1957, she took 7 trips and visited 35 countries. She met world leaders like Winston Churchill, Jawaharlal Nehru, and Golda Meir. Helen has always been famous from the age of 8 until her death in 1968. She was honored around the globe for and also garnered many awards. She received honorary doctoral degrees from Temple and Harvard universities in the United States, Glasgow and Berlin universities in Europe, Delhi universities in India, Witwatersrand University in South Africa. She also received honorary Academy Awards in 1955 as the inspiration for the documentary about her life, Helen Keller in Her Story. She suffered a stroke in 1960, and in 1961 and on, she lived quietly in Archon Ridge, her home in Westport, Connecticut. Her last major public appearance in 1961 at Washington, D.C. Lions Club International Foundation meeting. She received the Lions Humanitarian Award for the lifetime of service to humanity. Sadly, on June 1st, 1968, a few short weeks of her 88th birthday, she passed away. Her ashes were placed right next to her companions, Anne Sullivan, Macy Polly Thompson, in St. Joseph Chapel of Washington Cathedral.